Good evening, everyone, or good morning, or good afternoon. Honestly, I have no idea what time it is because I forgot to wear a watch today. I also forgot where I parked my car, forgot that I had a dentist appointment last Tuesday, and this one is fresh. I forgot the name of the person who introduced me to this very stage about 45 seconds ago. I'm sorry, whoever you were lovely. But here's the thing, I'm not worried, because today I'm going to tell you that forgetting isn't a flaw. It isn't a sign that your brain is broken. Forgetting is, in fact, a feature, a deliberate, beautifully engineered feature. And if you're wondering why I'm qualified to talk about memory, well, I studied it for 3 months, forgot most of it, and am now presenting the parts I vaguely remember. So I am basically a living demonstration of the topic. Let's start with the basics. In 1885, a German psychologist named Hermann Ebbinghaus, which is already a name that sounds like you're forgetting it mid-sentence, published what he called the forgetting curve. He discovered that humans forget roughly 50% of new information within an hour. Within a day, that climbs to about 70%. Within a week, we've wiped out nearly 90%. Let that sink in. You could watch a documentary right now, fall asleep, wake up tomorrow, and genuinely have no idea what country it was set in. This is not stupidity. This is science. Ebbinghaus literally ran these experiments on himself. The man sat alone memorizing lists of nonsense syllables, things like DAX and BUP and ZOL, and then tested himself repeatedly. And before you feel sorry for him, please know that he kept doing this for years, voluntarily. So in terms of memory problems, I'd argue he had a different kind. Now here's where it gets actually interesting. Neuroscientists discovered something in the early 2000s that completely flipped how we think about forgetting. They found that the brain doesn't passively lose memories the way a phone runs out of storage. Instead, the brain actively erases them, on purpose. There are dedicated neurons, actual specialized cells, whose whole job is to go through your memories every night while you sleep and delete the ones that aren't worth keeping. Your brain runs a nightly cleanup, like the IT department that purges old files, except the IT department never asks whether you actually needed those files, which is why you can remember every lyric to a Backstreet Boys song from 1998 but cannot remember the pin you set up 3 weeks ago. The technical term for this is synaptic pruning. Your brain strengthens connections you use and weakens connections you don't. It is, at its core, extremely logical. Your brain is saying, this person hasn't needed to recall that Tuesday afternoon from 2019 in 4 years. Gone. The Backstreet Boys, however, come up constantly at weddings and in supermarkets, keeping those. Of course, sometimes the brain's editorial decisions are questionable. Let me share some of history's most spectacular forgetting moments. In 2001, the Irish government introduced a ban on smoking in public places, a brilliant piece of public health legislation. The only small problem was that the official who was supposed to sign the bill into law forgot to sign it. It sat on a desk for 2 weeks before anyone noticed. The ban on smoking had to wait because someone forgot a pen, or possibly forgot the entire concept of signing things. Then there is the story of the Swedish man who, in 2004, got into his car, drove to the airport, flew to Spain for a 2-week holiday, and landed in Malaga before realizing he had forgotten his wife at the departure gate. She was still standing there, with the luggage, waiting. The airline had to arrange for her to fly out the next day. Now, I want to be clear, he didn't forget he had a wife. He remembered her the moment he sat down on the plane and noticed the seat next to him was empty. But by then, well, there are some things no amount of holiday can fix. And my personal favorite, in 2012, a man in New Zealand called the police to report his car stolen. Officers searched the area, filed a report, began an investigation. 24 hours later, the man called back to say he'd found the car. It was parked exactly where he had left it, outside the supermarket, 2 days earlier. He had walked home from the shops, assumed he'd driven, and then reported his own car stolen to the police. The officers, to their enormous credit, were described as understanding. But we don't need to look at history for examples. Look around you. Every single day, forgetting shapes human civilization in ways we don't fully appreciate. Consider the entire multi-billion-dollar password manager industry exists because humans cannot remember more than about 4 things reliably, and we are now required to have 17 different accounts with passwords that must contain a capital letter, a number, a symbol, a hieroglyph, and a small prayer. Consider the sticky note, invented in 1968, became a global phenomenon. Why? Because people kept forgetting. That is the entire product. A small square of paper for things your brain decided weren't worth storing, and we buy them by the millions. The human brain, which can store an estimated 2.5 petabytes of information, roughly equivalent to 3 million hours of video, routinely outsources buy milk to a piece of paper stuck to the fridge. Consider every reply-all disaster in the history of email. Someone forgot who was in the thread. Every awkward moment where you've forgotten someone's name at a party, 5 minutes after they told you, and you've spent the next 20 minutes trying to engineer a situation where someone else will say their name out loud. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Oh, this is my friend, you two should introduce yourselves. That is not friendliness, that is outsourcing. And consider every time someone walks into a room and immediately forgets why they came in. This phenomenon has a name. Researchers at the University of Notre Dame call it the doorway effect. They found that simply passing through a doorway triggers the brain to file away the previous episode and start fresh. The doorway is a mental chapter break. Your brain thinks it's being helpful. It is genuinely not. And here's the part I want you to actually remember today. If you remember anything, the research is increasingly clear that forgetting is not just normal, it is necessary. There is a condition called hyperthymesia, or highly superior autobiographical memory, where individuals remember nearly every day of their lives in vivid, involuntary detail. They cannot forget. Sounds wonderful, right? A superpower. Except every single person with this condition reports that it is exhausting and frequently distressing. Every embarrassing moment, every petty argument, every cringeworthy thing you said at a party in 2007, all of it perfectly preserved, available on demand whether you want it or not. One woman with the condition described it as living with a split screen, the present moment on one side and an unbidden replay of the past on the other, constantly. She said forgetting felt like freedom she'd never had. And that reframes everything, doesn't it? Forgetting isn't your brain failing to do its job. It's your brain doing its job beautifully, deciding, moment by moment, what is worth the metabolic cost of long-term storage and letting the rest go. The painful argument from last year, softened by time. The embarrassing fall in a public place, faded enough that you can eventually laugh about it. The 93 names of people you met at a conference in 2018, mercifully released back into the universe. Your brain is not a filing cabinet that's running out of space. It's an editor, a ruthless, opinionated, sometimes completely baffling editor who keeps the Backstreet Boys and loses your pin, but an editor nonetheless. And most of the time, the edits are right. So the next time you walk into a room and forget why you're there, stand in the doorway, walk back, let the episode reload, and know that what just happened is your 86 billion neurons doing their best, under enormous pressure, with very little sleep and almost certainly not enough water. The next time you forget a name, forget an appointment, or forget that you're the one who was supposed to bring the cake, forgive yourself. You are not broken, you are efficiently pruned. And the next time someone tells you they have a terrible memory, smile at them knowingly, because now you know the truth. They don't have a terrible memory. They have a brain that's aggressively prioritizing. They just happen to be prioritizing other things over whoever is talking to them at that moment. Which, now that I think about it, is either very reassuring or very insulting, depending on which side of that conversation you're on. My name is actually, it doesn't matter. You'll forget it by tomorrow. Ebbinghaus said so. And on that note, thank you all so much. It's been a genuine pleasure. I think